So, today I want to talk about challenging ideologies. And I want to use some examples of how this can be really good and how not doing this can be actually really bad for your mental growth, your spiritual growth, your political growth, your philosophical growth. And I'm going to use an example from pop culture today because it's really popular and it might get someone else to watch this video. Recently, if you haven't heard, Joe Rogan did a podcast with Eddie Bravo and Alex Jones. During that podcast, Joe Rogan stepped out to use the bathroom, which left Eddie Bravo and Alex Jones in a room together, which seems crazy to begin with, but all right. And they started talking about the flat earth. And Alex Jones kind of challenged Eddie Bravo on that. And Eddie Bravo believes the earth is flat, if you don't know. He believes the earth is surrounded by this ice wall and that NASA and the government is actually lying to us about this. And Alex Jones challenged, whether facetiously or not, I couldn't really tell. He said, I'll fund an expedition to this ice wall and you can go on a boat. I'll give you a bunch of money and you can go video record this ice wall if you believe it so much. And it was interesting to watch Eddie Bravo kind of back down from this challenge. Even though he's one of the main proponents of the flat earth, he backed down and he said, well, I don't want to go because I'm afraid, but someone else can go. But I thought, well, what a missed opportunity, right? To do that. Even if you're wrong, how cool would it be to take a paid trip to the Arctic? Who doesn't want to do that? I mean, it's dangerous, sure, but it can be fun. Absolutely. And you missed an opportunity. And I think a lot of us do that. And also the Flat Earth Society as a whole has brought us an opportunity to do this in our own backyards. They challenge an ideology that you hold. You believe the earth is round. And they say, well, NASA and the government's lying to you. And then you have an opportunity to come back and say, well, how can I prove this to you? How can I prove the earth is round without using NASA photos or government information? And that's a fun challenge for both parties involved. And there is people like Eddie Bravo just backed right down from it, missing that opportunity. You can criticize Alex Jones all you want. I'll probably agree with most of it. But you still got to give the guy some credit for coming right out and saying, well, let's prove it. Let's unequivocally prove it. Alex Jones, of course, is popular for giving wild accusations and going full throttle. But I think he has a little bit more fun when he does that. He's guilty of that. There is an interesting thing, though, that kind of made me think of this topic, made me think about, is it makes me wonder how many ideologies do I hold, do you hold, do people hold as a whole, and they only hold that ideology because they like a person, and that person has said that, as opposed to doing your own research, finding out for yourself, did this person speak truth, or did they lie? Are they speaking out of ignorance? Are they speaking out of stupidity? Are they lying directly? Or do they actually know what they're talking about? I don't think enough of us really challenge our heroes to speak truth, which is a real shame because, again, it's not a trip to the Arctic, but you really are missing an opportunity to step outside the box, grow as a person, and learn something that you wouldn't have learned before, and also strengthen that argument. If I believe the earth is round, which I do, and I set a balloon up and I see the curvature of the earth because I sent my own balloon up, I did this whole thing myself. The government didn't pay for it. They weren't involved. Nobody else was. It was just me. Now I know the earth is at least curved. And now when I argue with someone who thinks the earth is flat, I can say, hey, here's a video of me setting a balloon up. There's a curve to the earth, man. I think you're wrong. Allowing me to speak more truth from more of a position of power and authority because I've seen it and I've done it, as opposed to just being a zombie and just consuming whatever information is handed to me and taking it as gospel, or just ignoring information at all and just playing video games all day long. Don't get me wrong, man. I love video games too, just like most people my age. But you can't just sit there and play video games all day long. It's just not healthy. It's not good. And unless you're playing educational games, you rarely learn anything. Which brings me to the interesting topic of conspiracy theories and how they can be a lot of fun for one, but also challenging. If I say the moon landing was a hoax and I challenge you to prove me wrong, you don't have to take that challenge, but it would be fun for you to show and learn all about the moon landing and how they did it and everything else. But also, I'm able to sit there and challenge those ideals back and forth. And that can be a really fun thought exercise for both of us. Even if neither one of us believe the moon landing was faked, we can still have a lot of fun learning about the moon, learning about the NASA program, and learning about photography and how it works. Why are there no stars in the background of the moon landing? That's an interesting question. I challenge you guys to figure that out for yourselves. I find it really interesting that today schools don't let you do this. They don't let you challenge any of the ideals that they put forth. They just give you a fact and expect you to regurgitate it later. If you challenge it, you're punished. A good example of this, and although this was not nearly as widespread as some people lead you to believe, there was a court trial where a teacher was trying to teach evolution to his students, but the state wouldn't allow it. They said, absolutely not. You cannot teach something that is against God. They believe that evolution is against God and you can't teach it. These students, they don't have the intellectual capacity to understand, even if you put it as with a precursor. And I think that is massively detrimental, especially to developing minds. What are you thinking? You can't just sit there and expect someone to be intelligent by their ability to regurgitate information, right? When I was younger, I went to catechism, as most young Catholics do. And I got kicked out because I asked too many questions. I was reading the Bible, I was trying to understand my religion more, and I had questions for the teacher, and the teacher didn't have an answer. And I got to give my church some credit here, because the teacher went and asked the nun. The nun didn't have the answer, so he asked the next person up the line, all the way up to the Monsignor. After about 2 months, I got kicked out. Even though I was doing really well in the class, they called on my parents and said that I'm not allowed to come back. But they also offered a confirmation ceremony, basically graduating me without ever doing the work, because I didn't want to deal with it. And it was really interesting for me because I was at this church. It was in Philadelphia, this big church. The cardinal was there, and he was confirming a bunch of mostly married couples, people that were getting married into the church. And oftentimes, as an adult, you don't want to go through that whole process of learning about a religion. You're just getting married so that you can go to church and do all that other stuff. I was the only kid there getting confirmed. And the cardinal actually told me when I was getting up there and officially becoming part of the Catholic Church, he said, "You're the troublemaker I heard of. Keep it up." And that stuck with me even today, all those years ago. I'm 32 years old now. You can do the math, how long ago that was. And I still remember that, and I still try to hold true to that because that was a very meaningful moment in my life. Stuff like that led me to join a debate club in school. Even though it wasn't part of my school, I found it a very valuable experience to go outside and find something where I can debate people, where I can learn stuff. And one of my favorite parts of debate club was taking and forcing myself to take an ideology that I didn't agree with and arguing it with somebody else and trying to convince them that they're wrong, even though I disagree. And that really helped me grow in my ability to debate and learn and study things that I didn't want to hear. It helped break that cognitive dissonance. And it even drove me, after I graduated high school, to write a paper on Nazism. Even though I'm not a Nazi, I don't believe in any of the Nazi ideologies. It was really interesting to learn about the socio-economic and political environment that caused Germany to elect Hitler as their ruler, as their leader, and allowed these horrible things to happen without resistance. And it opened my eyes up to see just how this can happen in any country and how it is happening in other countries. And it may start be happening here. But without writing that paper, I would have never known these things. And had I written that paper while I was in high school as some kind of graded report, they probably would have kicked me out. And this was, 2005 when I graduated. And I'm pretty sure they would have just kicked me out of school, suspended me, whatever, for writing that paper, because they didn't want to allow me, even in 2005, to be able to expand my knowledge and take an antithetical view from that which I also held. I think a lot of people, they hold on to these biases, but they're ignorant of it. And they just think that their bias is fact, that there is no other way, there is no way that they can be wrong, that they're right and that's the end of it, and they don't even challenge it. On the other hand, I think it's really important that you understand that you're biased, that that you vote this way. I'm a Republican. I vote Republican, although socially I align more with Democrats because I believe in freedom. But I know that that's my bias, and so I know that I have a cognitive dissonance that if someone says that guns are bad, I'm very likely to say, I'm going to ignore that information. So I force myself oftentimes to seek out anti-gun information, anti-gay information, because I agree with gay marriage, or communist information to learn about it, to see how good it can be, because I don't know everything there is to know about everything. I think I'm relatively smart like most people, but I don't know that I am. And so it's important that I learn these things and know my topics, especially if I want to debate, which I often do. I find myself debating all the time. There was a point in time where I was working at a fast food restaurant, and all I did all day was debate with a coworker on politics, because him and I disagreed almost completely on everything. We still managed to find some common ground, but I was unafraid to say whatever I wanted to say in front of customers or anything else. It was a really good environment, and it was a lot of fun. Even though I never convinced that person of anything, I know a lot of the people in that establishment were listening to us debate, and I know they were coming back just to listen to us go back and forth because it was fun. It was enjoyable. Even though nothing was ever solved by these back and forth exchanges, it was still a fun exchange of ideas. And I think a lot of people, they avoid it like the plague because they have this pride that they think that they have to be right, that being wrong is bad, that it hurts you physically to be wrong, and that physical and emotional pain are identical, even though they can be very similar and they can feel very similar. People want to avoid this pain, and they want to keep this dopamine rush of being right all the time. And it's much to their own detriment because they don't grow as a person, they don't learn anything. So I'm going to encourage anybody watching this video, I don't care what your political stance is, I don't care what your religious beliefs are or your philosophical beliefs are. Choose something. Today, pick a topic that you hold dear and start studying something that is completely the opposite of that topic. Learn about it. Take some time and write a paper about it. Write a paper from the perspective of that opposite ideal and tell me that you didn't learn something and that you didn't value that information that you learned. People say a rolling stone gathers no moss, and I hate that saying because I think that it encourages you to just throw everything else away and just keep moving forward. I prefer the saying is to be rolling stone, but make sure you pick up some moss. But just be careful about what moss you pick up. Anyway, guys, thanks for watching this video. Hope you guys have a fantastic day. If you can't do that today, you can always try again tomorrow. End of video.